need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
Brett Kavanaugh says he's telling the truth. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
I've never sexually assaulted anyone, not in high school, not ever.
The Supreme Court nominee denying to Fox allegations from two women. One claims he groped and tried to assault her at a party when he was 17. The other says Kavanaugh exposed himself to her at a college party.
If such a thing had happened, it would have been the talk of campus.
Kavanaugh and his first accuser, Christine Blasey Ford, will testify at the Senate Thursday. Democrats, like Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, keep demanding an FBI investigation, asking Republicans,
what are you afraid of? What are you hiding? What is Judge Kavanaugh hiding?
But White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders just told Fox,
I do think it's unfair to continue to drag the process out and continue to put good people through the ringer.
Now, President Trump will address world leaders later this morning at the UN, where Fox's Tanya J. Powers is live in New York.
President Trump is set to speak around 10:15 Eastern time. He is expected to double down on his America First commitment. He could even voice more criticism of the UN itself. Now, he has a bilateral meeting as well as a working lunch later on with the UN Secretary General. Other speakers of note today include President of Turkey Erdogan, French President Macron, and Iranian President Hassan Rouhani. Dave.
Tanya, the president's expected to be harsh, talking about Iran this morning as well. Bill Cosby will find out today if he'll go behind bars for sexual assault. Fox's Gernal Scott live at the court in Pennsylvania.
Dave, today we will begin likely with a defense psychologist testifying as to why Cosby should not be designated a sexually violent predator. That is key to his sentencing. Unless Cosby has something to say on his own behalf, sentencing will likely follow that. Prosecutors asked for 5 to 10 years. The defense wants house arrest. The expectation, anywhere from 1 to 4 years behind bars. The defense is expected to appeal any jail time.
Fox News, fair and balanced.
I used to post to job boards.
Only to sort through tons of resumes.
Just to find a few candidates for
my sales team.
My hair salons.
That old process was not smart.
Then I went to ZipRecruiter.
Its technology scans resumes for me to find the right people.
And actively invites them to apply.
So I get qualified candidates fast. Smart.
See why ZipRecruiter is rated #1 by employers in the U.S. Try it now for free at ZipRecruiter.com/hire. That's ZipRecruiter.com/hire. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Based on Trustpilot rating of hiring sites with over 1,000 reviews.
Renowned medical correspondent and endurance race champion, Bob Arnott, MD.
People ask me, how do you keep competing at the age of 70? Healthy living is important, but so is pain relief. If you have pain, you can't train. So I'm thrilled I discovered Salonpas Lidocaine Plus. This unique topical pain reliever contains 2 safe and effective anesthetics. Nothing has worked better for me.
Salonpas Lidocaine Plus, cream or roll-on.
A lot of you keep asking us if this was faked. Police say no, it really was a baby boy crawling across a busy street in Lakewood. Police are now investigating how that child got from his home to the street. A motorist saw what he thought was a toy in the road about 5 o'clock on Saturday. And when it started moving, he realized it was real. He stopped traffic and another passerby got the boy safely back home. Brett Kavanaugh says he won't let false accusations drive him out of the process. Kavanaugh, President Trump, and top Republicans mounting an aggressive drive to rally the public and GOP senators behind his teetering Supreme Court nomination now that 3 women have made claims of sexual misconduct. The average cost of tuition and fees at a Jersey community college up 3%. Jacob Farbman with the New Jersey Council of County Colleges says these schools have their own expenses to battle while trying to keep things affordable and improve student outcomes.
Over the last 8 years, we have significantly increased the annual number of students who graduate by 48%.
Private colleges and universities hike tuition an average of 1.2%. I'm Eric Scott. This is the Town Square News Network.
It's a pretty wet forecast today. Periods of rain for most of your Tuesday. That rain could be heavy at times. It will transition to more scattered thunderstorms this afternoon and this evening. High temperatures in the upper 70s. Rain will exit tonight. It'll be mostly cloudy and humid with possible fog, lows around 70. And tomorrow will start partly sunny, warm, and humid with highs in the 80s. Just watch out for a line of strong thunderstorms that'll move in tomorrow evening. Will dry out as we move into Thursday. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Hey, thanks very much. Chuck Malamut is here. This program is sponsored by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed today are those of Chuck, do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of today's broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Chuck Malamut, an ambitious schedule. Let's get right into it. Your market update.
Good morning, Harry. Kirk, hey. Good morning. It seems as if, if we can get out of the way of the noise, because there certainly is a lot of it, and you guys covered most of it in the last hour, we are quickly approaching the end of the quarter.
Yep.
And the expectation is we will be seeing earnings around the 7th to 9th of October, and then the market can begin to focus again on what's really important, and that's,
the midterm election. No, I'm just kidding.
That's how, can focus on earnings.
That's fine,
and the economy. So if we look at last week, the Dow and the S&P both hit all-time highs again. As we were focusing on some positive economic news and look past the ongoing trade issues. Now, that sort of reared its ugly head yesterday a little bit. But as we get in today, we never like to look day to day, but
the markets did not like this trade stuff yesterday.
No, they did not. But they focused, whether it's something out of Washington or trade.
Do you think the phony news of Rosenstein is on his way to the White House? He's either resigning or being fired, because many in the media they floated a complete falsehood. And many actually believe that was part of yesterday's drop.
The market.
The
market from the jump yesterday.
It was the China and the trade stuff.
It was China. It was trade. It was, people digested what was over the weekend. What happened over the prior week? When you think about it, the S&P was up almost 1% for the week. Materials, financials, energy, industrials led the way. Defensive areas like REITs and utilities were down somewhat, and again, more focus on bonds as interest rates. If you remember, the fear back in May was that if the 10-year Treasury pierced that 3% level, and it did, it got to 3.12 back in May, that the economy would stop. Right now, we are at roughly 3.08, 3.09. And the economy seems to be moving pretty good here. So it looks as if the economic growth is accelerating, even though the trade issues that we just kind of chatted about and rising interest rates are, potential risks, to the market. We don't believe that trade, as we know it today, those concerns are going to ease anytime soon. However, we don't think at the same time they're going to derail the current global economic expansion that we're seeing. Because remember, so far in 2018, all focus has been pretty much on domestic. And when you look at performance, S&P 500, Dow Jones Industrial Average, and even though the Nasdaq is off month to date, they are all up double digits, 11, 10, and almost 17%. But as we talked about last week, the international markets, have been somewhat of a drag, and are now, I think, in the past week, are starting to get some momentum and are moving, in a positive direction. So we are desperately waiting for the end of the month. We want to get into October. We want to. I don't want to. I know you.
You wouldn't mind if September ended right now, would you?
No, September has actually turned into a pretty decent month, with the exception, as I mentioned, is NASDAQ. I mean, the S&P and the Dow was up. We are seeing a shift. We are seeing a shift now out of growth. I mean, you look at large cap growth has beaten large cap value, I think, for maybe 8 or 10 consecutive years. The markets are getting a little more defensive. Investors are looking for more dividend yielding or dividend paying stocks versus traditional growth. So don't be at all surprised if that continues, as we get through the third quarter, obviously into the fourth quarter.
Two
and
quick
into
things,
next year.
because I know Chuck has 14 additional items after the market update on his list, and I want to throw one more in that's going to make it 15. But I want to make a quick announcement. The hero Mike Heath just checking in on my H phone and writes in, "Good morning, Mayor. Ocean Heights Avenue is blocked off getting to Mays Landing because of an accident, so please be guided accordingly. Avoid that area if you can," and you know where I'm talking about. That would be 559-ish Mays Landing at Ocean Heights Avenue. I mentioned something. This is something that the late, great Bill Malamut and I did all the time on our program for years and years and years, because hardly anybody else would ever do it. We always were talking to people about paying your bills on time. Obviously, if something's going wrong and you can't, talking to your creditors, but making sure, because there are people that can pay their bills that just either get lazy or forgetful, whatever it is, because of how important it is to keep that credit score as high as you can, so that when you need a mortgage from Bill Malamut, when you need to get your next car, you're getting a rate that is preferred rather than subprime, and all these different things that we would coach. Chuck, I'm so proud to report, I don't know if you heard my earlier monologue.
I did.
But is the highest FICO credit score average of all Americans, average together, of all time in the history of the country. We're talking a 704 average credit score, meaning the lowest to the highest averages out to 704, which is good credit. It's the first time ever this has been the case. This means more people than ever before can pay their bills on time. It means that salaries are increasing, bonuses are being offered and provided, new job opportunities are on the rise, financial markets are at all-time highs. This is spectacular news, and it certainly fits within the Malamut program as a financial matter.
And I'm going to skip around here on the agenda that I sent you, because there was one item that we've identified as medium household income.
There you go.
Sets a record.
So that's part of that right there.
If we look, if we adjust for after inflation, the median household income in 2017 was at $61,372. It's the highest ever recorded in our country, beating the previous number of $60,300 set back in just a year before in 2016. However, this is what's really incredible. You got 16 and 17 with back-to-back, records. What year do you think the last record was set?
1980s?
1999.
Ooh.
From an again, it's adjusted for inflation. So think about it. We went 17 years.
Wow.
Where we either had the same or somewhat slightly lower, but we weren't at that record pace. But, so now you put in 16, you put in 17. I think that's something to be said for sure.
Let me also thank John, a good friend, for writing in. He said he was just about to report that the detour starts at the corner of Ocean Heights Avenue and Pine Avenue. So that's the area you want to avoid. Unfortunately, there's been a traffic crash today. You're listening to Chuck Malamut. For all of your financial planning needs, turn to the Malamut Group. Chuck is the managing director, leads his team at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. The Fed is in focus this week. Chuck, why?
Meeting today, meeting tomorrow. I don't think it's been pretty much forecasted or broadcasted out there, the 25 basis points move. I think everything is in place to justify that.
Especially that Trump is president. Chuck, he had to laugh because he knew.
I'm a little slow thinking this morning.
It's a return to the new norm. Chuck, say it.
No.
It's the return to the new norm.
Harry, what I was Kirk was actually thinking about is the midterm elections are the first week of November.
Yes.
We have a rate increase now. Maybe they'll jump it to 50 basis points, Harry.
I'm going to say no, but they would if they could.
So I think they go 25 tomorrow, and all indications are they go again after the election. And as we get into 19,
that's when
probably
they really are going to go to work.
Right now, at least what is being forecasted is there will be 2 rate increases in 2019. So, the Fed funds rate, and that's something we look at right now all the time, is pretty much, approaching neutral, meaning that policymakers, have to are taking more risks, on the balancing upside and downside risks. So it's quite a tightrope because you want to increase rates because of the health of the economy.
Isn't it nice the flexibility they have to really measure these things because we have such a strong economy? Before, let's be honest, and it's nothing to do with politics, before they couldn't even think about raising interest rates. We were printing money. We were faking an economy for almost a decade. Here they have such wide latitude, almost like a chemistry set where they can actually beakers of stuff because they have such a beautiful economy to work with. Now, the only thing they could do, in my estimation, would be mess it up and slow it down.
That's always been the concern that you it's that rubber band that you constantly pull it, the elastic in and out and in and out. You get to the point where do you pull it so hard that it snaps?
Yep.
And the Fed has oftentimes been criticized for slowing down the economy or wrecking the economy.
Yeah. I like the rubber band example, Chuck, and I'll tell you why. Everybody that's ever had something, I used to use rubber bands because I would have 4 cassette tapes. Now everything is digital, and I would wrap them in bundles of 4 because it would be each hour of the program.
I always thought that you took your $100 bills and wrapped them with the rubber bands.
Mr. Big.
No.
My grandfather did that, and Don P. Hurley does that. My father taught me not to carry a wallet, which would support the rubber band theory because my grandfather told me, and Don does it for this reason, it doesn't slip out of your pocket. It holds it in there. So anyhow, I love the rubber band thing, and here's why. Anybody that's ever used a rubber band to keep something together, and it's something you may go to from time to time, all of a sudden the rubber band
begins to fray.
Yes, it has those little cuts in the rubber band, and and it does dry rot too. And at some point, snapola, and that's what they guard against. Chuck, we're going to break. We're going to come right back. One of my favorite topics, not just with Malamut, but at any time. I love that we are in an economy where employees' wages are rising and the economy is doing as well as it is. I'm always disappointed that our media is so dishonest that they won't tell. I just always wonder, Chuck, this is all happening with the media never mentioning it. I know some of the business people do, Cavuto and some of the others, but if they really would tell the truth about this economy, it is truly the envy of the world, is something to behold. We're going to talk rising wages and the economy next with Chuck Malamut. Coming up in just 2 minutes, your second of 3 chances to have an opportunity to win up to $5,000 with WPG is next.
Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Fall is the perfect season for outdoor adventures, and everyone knows that adventures are just more fun in a Jeep.
Hi, this is Stacy Lilliston at Lilliston Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Take advantage of the 2018 model year clearance and low lease offers on the most popular Jeep models, like a new 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo 4x4, leased for just $259 a month, or a 2018 Jeep Wrangler JL for only $329 a month. During Jeep Adventure Days at Lilliston, you will find the Jeep and the price you're looking for. Lease a 2018 Jeep Compass Latitude for mere $139 a month.
Every great adventure starts with a great deal. Jeep Adventure Days are happening now at Lilliston, and your new Jeep is waiting. Lilliston Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, North 2nd Street in Millville. Shop 24/7 at Lilliston.com. 36 and 39-month leases, 10,000 miles per year plus tax tags first payment. Total due at inception, $29.95 Grand Cherokee and Wrangler, $39.95 Compass. All applicable rebates with approved credit through Chrysler Capital. All costs borne by consumer. Offer ends 9/30/18.
The Insane Inflatable 5K is coming to town, so grab your friends and family and have some fun at the zaniest fun run you've ever done. In 2018, inflate your fitness as you climb, weave, and bounce your way through 11 insane inflatables that will challenge and surprise you and leave you wanting more.
Get your bounce on Saturday, October 6th at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia.
Check it out and register early to take advantage of special savings at insaneinflatable5k.com.
The WPG Cash Casino is open with your chance to win up to $5,000. Here's Harry Hurley with another cash code.
Thank you, Chris Coleman. This is Hurley in the Morning, and it is your chance to win up to $5,000 in the WPG Cash Casino. Now, we did our 720 code word. This is the 820 code word, and the word is jump. They're making fun of me with my headset on. They're whispering to each other. This is like bad boys in the studio. Simply go to WPGTalkRadio.com, enter the code word JUMP. I strongly suggest that you get the app. You can do it right from the WPG app on your smartphone. Bottom right-hand side is the speed button tab. And enter the code word JUMP for your latest opportunity, a chance to win up to $5,000 with WPG. And don't forget one more code word coming up at 9:20 this morning in open forum. Another chance to win up to $5,000 with WPG Talk Radio 104.1. And again, your 8:20 a.m. code word is JUMP. Mr. Malamut, I love this title, this topic, Rising Wages and the Economy.
So as we talked about before, and how difficult the task is of the Fed to manage through a growing economy, is that we've oftentimes talked about increasing wages and how that happens. And the fact it's not so much within getting a raise within a company, it's moving from company A to company B. So rising wages should help economic growth. However, this could present a risk to the Fed if the economy starts overheating. And again, we've been through that process before. I will tell you, Harry, in my travels, I had an opportunity 2 weeks ago to be in the Midwest of Wisconsin and Minnesota, and last week, over the weekend, out in Nevada, and everybody is looking. Everywhere you go, everyone is looking to hire people. And as we oftentimes say to college graduates in particular, your first job is not necessarily your last job. So the fact is there's so much movement now, and that is, and there's more jobs than people, that puts that pressure point, on employers, and eventually employers will be giving raises to keep employees and retain them rather than lose them. So you think about what the Fed has to do. It can't. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. And the fact is, we don't want to get the economy to the point where it overheats. I know that we want to have, GDP, 4+. I think something we have to be very, very careful of, because with GDP, I don't want to say out of control, but very, very high, that ultimately puts pressure points on the rest of the economy. While inflation is there, it's not. I mean, it's there, but it's not there like we have been accustomed to over many, many years. It's something we have to be, certainly very, very leery of.
Chuck Malamut is here. A reminder for all of your financial planning needs, turn to Chuck and his group, the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. For all of your financial planning needs, call 609-383-2010 with Chuck Malamut. This is another question that gives you an opportunity to really, I think, articulate something that's very important. Where, in your estimation, do you believe we are in the economic cycle?
Well, believe it or not, we are, some have given up the economy to be dead. It's sort of that fake news that we oftentimes hear about. But, we think we're probably in the latter stages of the cycle. Growth can still continue. And when you measure the Fed funds rate that we talked about a few minutes ago, it is still relatively low. Given the fact that we only have modest inflation out there now, we think that the ongoing effects of tax cuts, and there's been, I don't know how many articles I've read that it's a sugar high and it's going to wear off, and we don't think that's really the case. You have higher capital spending because there's more cash on the balance sheets of the companies that have received the corporate tax cut, and the consumer. And you talked about this just recently with Kirk in the last hour. You have a consumer that is willing to spend. I mean, and they're, it's so healthy to see people out there, wanting to go on vacation, wanting to go out to dinner, that they're not scared about saving every last dollar because they're going to be out of work tomorrow.
Chuck, before we go on to our next topic, I just want to get my 2 cents in on this sugar high thing, because every time I hear that, it really bothers me, because that is purposefully political and purposefully dismissive of all the economic data that truly shows that there are sound fiscal proofs at hand that show that this is a robust period of growth, that it is not a sugar high, and they just say that because they don't want to give credit. It's a political statement. They don't want to give credit, so then it's just all wrong. You just don't know it yet. This is all wrong. It's going to really go bad, and I just think that's a real intellectually dishonest service.
I think they need to get out and start to tour the country.
Yeah.
And whether you go north, south, east, or west, I'm pretty certain wherever you go, you're gonna see the same effect, where you have, people working, making significantly more than they made a decade ago. And I mean, just think about, and we'll talk about this in a minute. Think about where we were 10 years ago, and the progress that we've made. Now, granted, it all, you didn't like turn the page in 2009 and all of a sudden the world got better, but certainly, whether it's
we had a lost decade.
We had a decade that was very, very challenging, and and actually, I think let me skip around here a little bit, Harry. So
because we have that one.
So if you take a look at where we were in 2008, September 7th, 2008 to be exact, the government took over Fannie and Freddie, anticipating $200 billion of mortgage defaults. We also went through the largest bankruptcy in the history of the United States, that being Lehman Brothers. And again, there's all kinds of discussion, like, should that have happened, and was the government wrong in pulling the plug and forcing them out? And I guess we'll really never ever know. TARP, that was initiated and put in action, $700 billion.
Toxic asset.
Troubled asset relief program.
Yeah.
And the fact that the government forced some very good banks to take the money, even though they didn't want it, because they did not. What the government did not want to have happen is say, okay,
they're going to make somebody look good and somebody look bad.
Yeah,
I get it.
And so you have 7 bad banks, 3 good ones, and as a result, now you've identified the 7 bad ones, so everybody kind of runs from the 7 bad ones into the 3 good ones, and now you have Lehman Brothers Part 2.
That could actually be Hank Paulson, and I give George W. Bush credit too, because obviously he was the president. That could be Hank Paulson's greatest moment, even though there was acrimony about that. I think that was absolutely the right way to do it, because, as you know, Chuck, we were doing the show every Tuesday. That was a very precarious time.
And let's not forget the fact that that AIG, also they were given a bailout and as the nation's largest insurance company, and they basically gave 80%. AIG gave 80% of the company to the government. Because of the bailout that they were in fact given. So we all have short memories, and I guess psychologically we always kind of block out bad things that happen in our lives, whether it's personally, professionally. That's just the human psyche, and the fact of the matter is, it's hard to believe that this was a decade ago.
I know.
And how far we've come. And it's something I think that your listeners need to be reminded of, that I'm not suggesting you just go out and spend all your money and be smart. You have an opportunity now to sort of right size your balance sheet. And if you haven't worked on it, you really need to, because if we are on the late stages of this economic cycle, we know what happens after. And you just need to be, you need to be properly prepared for that.
Chuck, great coaching there. And before the bottom of the hour break, Michelle wrote into the program. I think it's a great question. I've been thinking about it. I've been hearing a lot about it. Has the wonderful research team at Morgan Stanley been talking much about tax cuts 2.0?
There's been a little bit of a discussion, because I think it's been obviously more than floated out there. I think all eyes right now are in the first week of November. Who wins, what jurisdictions.
Well, it's true, because if the other party were to win,
then
there will not be tax points 2.0. But I will say the House is preparing to vote on tax cuts 2.0 before Election Day. I don't know if the Senate is going to be taking it up. Michelle, good question. We're going to be right back. Approaching 30 minutes past the hour. You're listening to Chuck Malamut for all of your financial planning needs. Give Chuck a call, 609-383-2010. He has a wonderful team. at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. One of the topics I'm going to bring up next hour, and I'm not a fan of this, 4 states have already begun voting for the midterm. Vermont, South Dakota, Minnesota, and, of course, our beloved New Jersey. Look how much could change between now and then, and you've already voted. I just think there should be one day. We're going to get into that and take your temperature on that in the next hour. But 4 states have already begun to vote, and I scratch my head at this stuff. When we come back with Chuck, trade tensions came up in the market update in the beginning. If Chuck has more on that, the time will be his when we come back. Increasing interest rates in the economy. Chuck talked about the rate increase that looks likely. Maybe there's a little bit more about the economy, so we may touch on that point. Corporate earnings, midterm elections. We talked a little bit about that. Concentration of the 5 largest banks, and a whole lot more. Straight ahead with Chuck Malamut. This portion of our program also brought to us by the Pat Concrete Foundation, Ron Meischker, founder and chairman. And if you love clam chowder, all you can eat is on the menu. Kirk Conover just gave us a big, that was like when the Dodgers left-hander that hobbled hit the home run, Gibson. That was the Gibson fist pump in that Kirk did on the clam chowder. Kirk Gibson, that's right, with a K. Kirk Conover, one of the most famous people to be called Kurt for 30 years. But this event is this Saturday that we've been talking about for the better part of going on 2 weeks now. Saturday, September 29th. Kennedy Park in Summers Point, the site of a benefit party that will raise wonderful and much-needed funds for the Pat Concrete Foundation. It's called Clamboree, celebrating – Kirk, this is like Nirvana for you. Clamboree. We're trying to count the number of clams that Kirk has harvested in his career. It's got to be 10 million, he said. But the clamming traditions will be featured. There'll be 2 clam chowder contests. Do you make clam chowder, Kirk? It's surprising. Does Nancy? Okay, shocking. The man has caught 10,000 clams and doesn't make clam chowder. He delivers them alive. That's a good point. There's a restaurant division competition and an amateur contest. If you're a quick clam shucker, there's a contest for you. There's a clam pitching tournament, which I'm a big fan of. Actually, there was a time where I could enter the contest and probably be respectable. Clam pitching, the first cornhole. I was great at picking the right clam shell and throwing that sucker right in the hole. Chuck's laughing at me again. The man ridicules me since I was his direct report 30 years ago. I guess it was 35 years ago. But that was the original cornhole that you see now everywhere with sports logos on them and everything. The Sure Thing Band will bring South Jersey tunes. There'll be a clamshell painting and seashell hunt, which will be extra fun for the kids, clamming demonstrations and exhibitors. There'll be slack-tied beer, raw and steamed clams from Charlie's, and all of this information and more to get your tickets, to register for the different contests or the tournament, clamboree.com, Clamboree. Clamboree sponsors are Charlie's, Harbor Outfitters, Ocean City Firefighters Association Local 4032, Killer Clam Rakes, Slack Tie Brewery, and Clam Train. Also a programming note, on Monday, October 15th, Ron Meischker will be here in studio, and we have breaking news all over the place. Ron is breaking news. I will be breaking some news and revealing for the first time a multi plus $1,000 grant that we'll be awarding in June of 2019. Proceeds from the Hurley in the Morning charity, and that's going to be an exciting announcement and more. Even some political things that you'll be interested in will be happening that hour. That's the first time I've mentioned it that way. On Monday, October 15th with Ron Meischker. October 15th on Monday, 8 o'clock hour, not to be missed. We'll be back with Chuck in just 2 minutes.
Tired of going on Facebook and seeing nothing but fake news stories, your crazy relatives arguing over politics, and vacation pictures from your annoying coworker? Be sure to like WPG Talk Radio 104.1 on Facebook to get South Jersey news every time you log on. It's the local information you need at your fingertips every time you go on Facebook. Visit the WPG Talk Radio 104.1 Facebook page through WPGTalkRadio.com.
At Ocean First Bank, our first thought is you. We put you first in all we do. Community banking for a century. We treat you like your family. Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
For a limited time, earn up to $200 when you open a Simply Great checking account. The account with unlimited domestic ATM fee rebates. Just use your debit card, make a mobile check deposit, and keep your account open for at least 6 months. It's that easy.
Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
Certain rules and restrictions apply. Visit oceanfirst.com for complete details. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Opportunity Lender.
Paul D'Amato.
Harry Hurley.
Paul, I know our listeners want to know what's new with the D'Amato Law Firm.
Things are great, Harry. We are so privileged to represent our clients whose lives have been turned upside down because they were involved in a serious accident. We meet on a regular basis. We copy our clients on all our correspondence so they always know what's going on with their case. We try to treat them like family. We have Alexa here, my daughter. I'm so happy that she's here. We have Steve Van Natten and Casey Gifford. We're a great legal team.
They're the D'Amato Law Firm for all of your personal injury legal needs. Turn to the official lead counsel to the Hurley in the Morning program for more than a quarter of a century. The D'Amato Law Firm in Egg Harbor Township, 609-926-3300. That's 609-926-3300. Tell Paul, Alexa, Sandy, the entire team that Hurley in the Morning sent you.
On the next Markley and Van Camp,
Brett Kavanaugh speaks. We'll be going over what he has to say and a cautionary tale about psychics.
It's also Math Storytelling Day.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I haven't talked to the psychics.
Markley and Van Camp this afternoon at 1. Now, Harry Hurley on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
37 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut continues. Chuck, trade tensions. You touched on it. Kirk, have a great day. Great hour, my friend.
So
you touched on it in your market update. Is there more?
I think we're pretty much through trade tensions. I mean, yesterday obviously a lot of attention. Pretty much if you look at what happened last week, investors for the most part shrugged off the latest announcements that came out of Washington. The expectation was once it came, that afternoon after 4:00. The futures were down, and then overnight, what happened? The international markets did relatively well, and that then moved over to the U.S. and we had a good day. So as a result of that, the near term, and I'm not saying anything that I think all your listeners know, it's pretty unlikely anything's going to happen with China in the very near future. We don't expect any of these tensions to ease.
China's talking a lot of smack.
Until after the midterm.
Yeah.
So, they elected, they had a trip plan, they declined. I don't think it's going to be a really happy ending for them at the end of the day. When you look at the trade imbalance, I think who are you and I to judge what goes on behind closed doors per se.
Past is also prologue too, though, so we could judge it this way: China's economy is not doing very well right now. We are doing very well right now. The advantage goes to us. When our economy was down, remember China's economy was way up.
We did mention this last week. Excuse me, kind of put it in perspective. The China, the Shanghai, stock exchange composite. Even last week was up 4.5%. Clearly, the winner, across the globe. Not far behind was Europe, which was up about 3.5%. But even after booking a 4.5% positive weekly return, that index is down almost 18% year to date. So it's clearly evident that their stock market, and again, what we always talk about, Harry, what is the stock market? It was a leading indicator. So as a result
of that,
is that
usually like 6 months out?
Yeah, 6 months out. So the market is not predicting, wonderful things, for their economy, and it's. I think at the end of the day, this could be a little painful for all of us as a consumer. I think the big the big push and what these companies have to think about, the manufacturers, the supply chain, where, how, and when are they going to get the necessary supplies to be able to produce the end product?
Right, but it does get rather touchy though, because you take, for example, iPhones. Any of the folks here that are doing business, whether it's American parts but assembled in China, that all has to be taken into consideration how it's going to affect our economy.
Yeah,
because you can imagine there are people not happy about this.
With 300 or 400 exemptions, and who is the judge and jury to pick and choose?
Winners and losers.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
it's terrible. It's terrible. It's horrible.
I'm thinking that in the next 6 months we're going to have some resolution. It's something that is going to be on the front burner for all of us, and it's something that we have to think about. But again, remember, Harry, we don't invest for today or tomorrow. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
It's very important to remind people, because we're a society that's so much. This has got to be challenging for you, Chuck, because in simpler times, people got a statement once a month. They didn't have an online ability to now you can literally drive yourself crazy looking second by second. It changes a lot, doesn't it?
Well, it changes. We've had situations where a client buys a piece of fixed income, and there is a spread between the bid and the ask. That's just the way that market works, and it's usually about 1%. And you buy the bond, and you're not even off the phone, and the client is saying, "Oh my God, my bond is down 1%." I'm saying, "Well, are you looking at your iPad? Are you looking on the computer? You're looking on your phone?" I said, "We have had this discussion numerous times how bonds are priced, and it's going to happen." But I think what's frustrating for us, and ultimately it doesn't end well for investors, because the human psyche. I mean, obviously people have written books and novels, and there's all kinds of courses out there. But the fact is that we just really make some poor judgments, when it comes to investing. If you wanted to buy something at a retail store, you're not going to pay full price, and you don't want to pay $500 for whatever you're buying. You want to pay $400. You're going to wait for it to go on sale.
Yes.
Well, in our world, unfortunately, what happens is, as evidenced last week with the pot stocks. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like going to the casino. But what happens is ultimately retail investors have a tendency, to buy high and to sell low. It's crazy, Harry. You got to think about when the rest of the world kind of walks away from something and people, quote, don't like it. And that's what Warren Buffett has built his empire on, and he'll go in and he'll buy. He doesn't buy, when everybody's on the right side of the boat together. He's going to be on the left side.
It's like Trump. Trump was buying real estate when other people were not buying real estate. Golf courses and apartment complexes and office buildings and post offices and all these things. I was thinking about something. I wonder if I can remember it. It had something to do sort of like what Buffett does. Where he's sort of the contrarian, and there's something to be said for that. I can't quite think of it, and we'll get our last break in. Maybe I'll think of it during the break. Chuck did talk about the increasing interest rates and the economy. If there's anything more on that, we'll come back to it. If not, we'll come back with corporate earnings, the midterm elections. We did cover what I call the lost decade, what a difference a decade makes. I am interested in this topic that I know we will get to. We'll have enough time after the break. Concentration of the 5 largest U.S. banks and what that means. We'll be back with Chuck Malamut, all about your financial matters. You can reach Chuck for all of your financial planning needs, 609-383-2010. Remember, you have to dial 609 now, even in our area code. I mean, there's a new area code, so you need to dial 609. Worst thing that happens is it prompts you. If you dialed 383-2010, it just tells you have to dial 609. 609-383-2010. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 104.1 and WPGTalkRadio.com.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlantic Care, a member of Geisinger.
Sleep deprivation is such a rampant problem that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention call insufficient sleep a public health epidemic. Most adults need about 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night, but studies show we are getting much less. When we don't get enough sleep, our memory is compromised, our immune system is at risk, and we are easily irritable and susceptible to stress. Lack of sleep is even linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart attacks, strokes, and more. In addition, sleep deprivation contributes to auto accidents and work-related injuries. If you're having trouble falling or staying asleep, talk with your doctor about possible underlying medical conditions. Getting a good night's sleep is often underrated, but it's one of the most important steps we can take to reducing our risk of disease and living a healthier life. I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlanticare, a member of Geisinger. Call 1-888-569-1000 or visit atlanticare.org.
Hi, I'm Ron Rossi, and it's clearance time at Rossi Honda. All our 2018 models are on sale and marked down with clearance pricing. You can lease the all-new 2018 Civic LX 4-door for only $285 a month for 36 months with zero down. And I mean zero. Everything included, come in with a pen. And don't forget, the oil changes are on us, up to 5 years or 60,000 miles on all new Hondas. At Rossi Honda, we treat you better, period, for less on Delsey Drive in Vineland.
Town Square Media has teamed up with Rossi Honda on South Delsey Drive in Vineland to bring you the Teen Safe Driving Program. As parents, we need to instruct our teens how to handle emergencies, remind them not to text while driving, and never drink and drive. Bring your teen's car into Rossi Honda for a free safety check, no matter what the type or where you bought it. Or have them come in for a free safety class, where they'll learn how to change a flat tire, what to do about a dead battery, or what to do when they run out of gas. Call Rossi Honda for an appointment.
The Insane Inflatable 5K is coming to town, so grab your friends and family and have some fun at the zaniest fun run you've ever done. In 2018, inflate your fitness as you climb, weave, and bounce your way through 11 insane inflatables that will challenge and surprise you and leave you wanting more.
Get your bounce on Saturday, October 6th at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia.
Check it out and register early to take advantage of special savings at InsaneInflatable5K.com. We'll see you on the course.
The skills you can develop as a soldier in the Army National Guard can give you an edge in the high-tech job market of tomorrow. The Guard offers career training to take advantage of your skills in science, technology, engineering, and math that can help give you a leg up to a high-paying and rewarding STEM profession. Gain practical experience with emerging technology and equipment not found in the civilian world. The Army National Guard can get you started in an array of STEM-related career fields such as information technology, communication systems, special forces engineers, technical engineering, air traffic control, and chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear science. Get a head start on your career in an exciting new field while earning money to pay for college, all while serving in your own community. Log on to NationalGuard.com or talk to a recruiter in your area to learn about all of the STEM career opportunities available to you in the Army National Guard. Sponsored by the New Jersey Army National Guard. Aired by the New Jersey Broadcasters Association and this station.
Your next chance to win up to $5,000 is at 9:20 this morning. Now, Harry Hurley on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
We're back 48 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut continues. Chuck, you covered increasing interest rates, correct?
We did, and we pretty much talked about corporate earnings.
We did.
It's the expectation is that we think the S&P 500 earnings will be around $160. By the end of 2018, we think it'll grow by about 1 to 170 the year after. But that sounds ambitious and it's a good number. That number might disappoint a little bit. So something we need to be a little bit careful about.
Do you have anything to say about the midterm elections?
Well, I think you pretty much beat that to a pulp.
I was pithy in my remarks.
The expectation is, and again, the needle changes very, very quickly. Is that the prospects for Democrats are somewhat improving as we get to the midterms. The Democrats could very well win the House. We expect the Republicans to hold on to the Senate. But if there's
some will tell you that's even in doubt.
There is a possibility of a full sweep,
yes,
and if that
reasonable chance
that could obviously have an impact.
Yeah, I'm going to say
as
no,
as you talked about earlier, the 2.0. I think that would be tabled. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, there's no question. Now, this sounds oxymoronic. Taxpayers who don't pay taxes.
Yeah, we kind of chatted about this. I think it was last week or maybe even the week before. Believe it or not, 44% of all U.S. individual taxpayers legally will pay zero federal income taxes for the year 2018.
So there are people filing a tax return.
Yes, people that are filing their tax return end of this year, due by April. The estimate is that 44% will not be paying any federal income taxes
Because they have write-offs and things that get them below
zero. Everybody's situation is different, but the exemptions have changed, the write-offs have changed, obviously the tax laws have changed, but think about almost 50% of legitimate taxpayers are not paying federal taxes.
So if we add taxpayers who pay no taxes and also citizens who pay no taxes, you could even say illegals who pay no taxes, there are more takers than there are makers
absolutely.
In America.
And we kind of talked about this in past discussions that the top 1%, basically you're carrying the load as far as paying taxes for all of us in this country,
and always maligned at the same time,
and terribly criticized as a result. Yes, absolutely.
Outstanding municipal versus Treasury debt. What's the deal?
Well, remember, Harry, several years ago we talked about municipalities. That were on the brink of going bad, and I'm trying to remember the lady that was a strategist that went out and went on a limb. She made the call for Citigroup, put a sell signal on that stock. She was an analyst, and then she came out, and I got that right. And then came out and said, all of these hundreds of municipalities are going to go bad. Well, that didn't happen.
No.
There were several, but here's what's going on. There's currently $3.8 trillion of municipal bond debt that's out on the streets right now, and that actually has declined from $4 trillion in 2010. However, if you go back and look at Treasury debt over that same time period, Treasury debt has increased by almost 70% to $14.9 trillion. So municipalities have done a reasonably good job managing their debt. But then when you get on the federal level, it's a totally different discussion.
All right, I said earlier we had 14 topics. We've covered more like we added Michelle's, probably more like 17. And we have 2 more to go, and I think we can squeeze in if Chuck will stay for a couple more minutes. This is my favorite topic. I know I said the rising wages. That really is my favorite topic because I'm so happy that that's actually occurring and that people are experiencing pay increases and actually the opportunity that if they're being mistreated, they can leave somewhere and just say, look, I don't think you treat me well and I have an opportunity to leave, so thanks for this opportunity and I got to go now. I like that people have options again because for basically what I call the lost decade, Chuck, people had to suck it up if they were responsible and had a family to provide for and a mortgage to pay and put food, clothing, and all shelter on the table. You had to stay in a bad situation because you had nowhere you could go. And then people were leaving, and you're getting more work put on you and no increases. And so I have a lot of compassion for what a lot of people have been put through over the previous decade. But this topic, though, is my nirvana of your whole show today. And Chuck titles it, The Joys of Living in New Jersey. Take it away, Chuck Malamut, please.
Yeah, so, if you don't want to leave New Jersey before the show, you're going to probably leave New Jersey after the show.
Well, we're 1 and 2, depending on which survey you read, in terms of people leaving.
Outflow.
Yes.
Yeah, so the state of New Jersey invested $3.2 billion during the current 2019 fiscal year. Now, that fiscal year is the 12 months ending June of 2019.
Kind of you to call that investment.
To fund, the DB, the defined benefit plans for state employees. That amount is projected to more than double to $6.6 billion by fiscal year 2023.
It's a nightmare.
So 4 years from now,
It'll be double.
The $3.2 billion is going to be less than 50% of the potential funding. So you think about the situation.
Can we intellectually, honestly say it's unsustainable?
Yeah, I think it is unsustainable. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, it's remember we talked about the elasticity of that rubber band before. You think about that rubber band just getting pulled and pulled and pulled, and ultimately what happens if you pull it too far. So now there's a lot of great reasons to stay here, and there's a lot of really good reasons not to stay here.
Yeah,
just something to think about.
Then it really becomes, and what we see, and it's also insidious, Chuck. We have a lot of career people, maybe public sector, maybe private even. They stay until retirement, then they leave. Take like a Frank Giordano, business owner, longtime committeeman, longtime freeholder. He gets to retirement. He's in South Carolina right now.
Yeah, and your listener
Joe
all the
South
time.
Carolina.
Exactly. So
Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, I'm sure elsewhere.
Texas,
absolutely. I'm telling you, Chuck.
Nevada.
You and I could make a fortune. I really believe that if we follow the model that is in California, California has a cottage industry right now, and I think I think it's more than a cottage industry, but they're popping up shops, and your job is you help people move. You help them leave. You help them relocate. People are making bank by helping people leave the state that they're in. And I think you'll agree with this. If you keep somebody their whole adult life and they get to retirement and then they're no longer contributing, they actually take that pension that they earned. And if it's a state pension, for example, they take it and it gets just shipped over to a new demand deposit account by direct deposit. Then they're gone. Their productivity is gone. And then there's less of us to feed the beast.
And how about the intellectual capital is gone?
Yes.
You can't even put a price on that, Harry.
Totally agree. And here's another one you always remember, and I love you for it. Social Security. I like the conversations we have about it over the years. This one is scary because we're getting close to being eligible.
Yeah,
and deficit is quickly approaching.
So the cost to fund Social Security in 2018 is projected to be slightly over $1 trillion, $1.003 trillion. That's a lot of zeros.
So 1/20th isn't our budget like a $20 trillion budget or something like that?
We're projected, and that's projected to exceed the generation of income this year, which is $1.001 trillion. Now you think about it, you got a number of zeros and a 3 on the end versus a 1 on the end. It doesn't seem like it's a lot.
No, but it is.
But the bottom line is, it's the first deficit since we have been measuring. It's the first deficit out there since 1982.
Chuck, I've been paying into Social Security since I was 14. I worked the cat rack at $1 Million Pier. Then I had a job at McDonald's, and then so on and so forth. Tilton Athletic Club, Press of Atlantic City, Golden Nugget, Woods at Killington, Resorts, Trump Castle, WPG, basically, Town Square Media. I've been paying since I was 14 into Social Security. I kid you not, since the time I was a young adult, I've always felt like it's either not going to even be there when my time comes, because that's been my life story. Everything changes right when it's my turn. That's the truth. That's my life story. And I think that because the baby boomers, us, Chuck, we're going to break the Social Security back, aren't we?
The good news, Harry, you will be able to collect. You will collect your Social Security.
Oh, do you think there will be any more revisions to how much we collect, when we can collect, and so on? Or
I don't think for us.
Okay.
I think for
our kids, though,
for our children or our children's children.
So you think they'll keep the promise to us?
I think they will, Harry.
Good to hear. Chuck Malamut for all of your financial planning needs. 609-383-2010. The reason I think that's important is not to be selfish, but we could have invested differently, but we stayed in something because we had a contract with that program.
And just remember, we talked about this off break with Kirk. you wait if you can.
Yes, and I totally agree.
Because that Social Security benefit grows by 8% per year.
And Kirk also added the name of the lady you were referring to, Meredith Whitney Layfield.
There you go.
Here we go.
Thank you, Kirk. Have a good day, guys.
See ya.
Atlantic City, WENJ 97.3 HD3 Millville. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
It's Election Day. I'll explain next.
Brett Kavanaugh calls them false allegations. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
We're looking for a fair process where I can be heard and defend my integrity.
And the Supreme Court nominee will get his chance Thursday at a Senate hearing where his first accuser will also tell her story.
But I've never done anything like this.
Kavanaugh tells Fox he's never sexually assaulted anyone, though a second woman claims he exposed himself to her at a college